The Romanian alphabet is a variant of the Latin alphabet used by the Romanian language. It is a modification of the classical Latin alphabet and consists of 31 letters. The letters Q, W, and Y were officially introduced in the Romanian alphabet in 1982, although they had been used earlier. They occur only in foreign words and their Romanian derivatives, such as quasar, watt, and yacht. The letter K, although relatively older, is also rarely used and appears only in proper names and international neologisms such as kilogram, broker, karate. These 4 letters are still perceived as foreign, which explains their use for stylistic purposes in words such as nomenklatură florin. In cases where the word is a direct borrowing having diacritical marks not present in the above alphabet, official spelling tends to favor their use. Letters and their pronunciation. Romanian spelling is mostly phonemic without silent letters. The table below gives the correspondence between letters and sounds. Some of the letters have several possible readings, even if allophones are not taken into account. When vowels, and are changed into their corresponding semivowels, this is not marked in writing. Letters K, Q, W, and Y appear only in foreign borrowings. The pronunciation of W and Y depends on the origin of the word they appear in, see comma below versus cedilla. Special letters. Romanian orthography does not use accents or diacritics. These are secondary symbols added to letters to alter their pronunciation or to distinguish between words. There are, however, 5 special letters in the Romanian alphabet which are formed by modifying other Latin letters. Strictly speaking, these letters function as basic glyphs in their own right rather than letters with diacritical marks, but they are often referred to as the latter. AA florin a with breve a for the sound, AA center a with circumflex a for the sound, a registered trademark a with circumflex a for the sound, unregistered trademark a s with comma a for the sound, a t with comma a for the sound. The letter accent is used exclusively in the middle of words. Its majuscule version appears only in all capitals inscriptions. Writing letters E unregistered trademark and E with a cedilla instead of a comma is considered incorrect by the Romanian Academy. Romanian writings, including books created to teach children to write, treat the comma and cedilla as a variation in font. See Unicode and HTML below. A versus equals. The letters are registered trademark and accent are phonetically and functionally identical. The reason for using both of them is historical, denoting the language's Latin origin. For a few decades until a spelling reform in 1904, as many as 4 or 5 letters had been used for the same phoneme, according to an etymological rule. All were used to represent the vowel, toward which the original Latin vowels written with circumflexes had converged. The 1904 reform saw only 2 letters remaining, accent and a registered trademark, the choice of which followed rules that changed several times during the 20th century. During the first half of the century the rule was to use a registered trademark in word initial and word final positions, and accent everywhere else. There were exceptions, imposing the use of a registered trademark in internal positions when words were combined or derived with prefixes or suffixes. For example, the adjective a registered trademark "t ugly" was written with a registered trademark because it derives from the verb a registered trademark "to hate." In 1953, during the communist era, the Romanian Academy eliminated the letter accent, replacing it with a registered trademark everywhere, including the name of the country, which was to be spelled Roma registered trademark near. The first stipulation coincided with the official designation of the country as a People's Republic, which meant that its full title was Republica Populara Florin Roma registered trademark na Florin. A minor spelling reform in 1964 brought back the letter accent, but only in the spelling of Roma Centen Romanian, and all its derivatives, including the name of the country. As such, the Socialist Republic proclaimed in 1965 is associated with the spelling Republica Socialista Florin Roma Cent near. Soon after the fall of the unregistered trademark SU government, the Romanian Academy decided to reintroduce accent from 1993 onward, by cancelling the effects of the 1953 spelling reform and essentially reverting to the 1904 rules. The move was publicly justified as the rectification either of a communist assault on tradition, or of a Soviet influence on the Romanian culture, and as a return to a traditional spelling that bears the mark of the language's Latin origin. The political context at the time, however, was that the Romanian Academy was largely regarded as a communist and corrupt institution. Nicolae's unregistered trademark SU and his wife Elena had been its honored members, and membership had been controlled by the Communist Party. As such, the 1993 spelling reform was seen as an attempt of the Academy to break with its communist past. The Academy invited the national community of linguists as well as foreign linguists specialized in Romanian to discuss the problem. When these overwhelmingly opposed the spelling reform in vehement terms, their position was explicitly dismissed as being too scientific. According to the 1993 reform, the choice between a registered trademark and assent is thus again based on a rule that is neither strictly etymological nor phonological, but positional and morphological. The sound is always spelled as assent, except at the beginning and the end of words, where a registered trademark is to be used instead. Exceptions include proper nouns where the usage of the letters is frozen, whichever it may be, and compound words, whose components are each separately subjected to the rule. However, the exception no longer applies to words derived with suffixes, in contrast with the 1904 norm. For instance, what was spelled a registered trademark T after 1904 became assent T after 1993. The first singular and the third plural of the verb are fee to be, now spelled sunt, constitute an exception based on Latin etymology. Although the reform was promoted as a means to show the Latin origin of Romanian, statistically only few of the words written with assent according to the 1993 reform actually derive from Latin words having an A in the corresponding position. Moreover, there are words that used to be closer in spelling to their Latin etymon before the 1993 reform than after. For example, registered trademark river, from the Latin rivus, became sent. The same is true for registered trademark